And we are back with the third segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this third segment, we're going to be doing a playoff preview of all of the games that are going to be going down tonight and just talk a little bit about them, just see like who I think is going to come out winning and see just, who I think is going to win the series and just talk about it. So, obviously, the Clippers are going to be fighting for their life in this next series in this next game going up against the Mavericks, because now the Mavericks, they have the advantage in terms of games and the advantage in terms of home court advantage. So now the Clippers, they have to worry about playing in Dallas territory for this game 6, and they also have to worry about this potentially being their season on the line. Now, obviously, this is a lot of pressure. Hiccups, excuse me. But obviously, this is a lot of pressure for a team that is notorious for struggling in these kinds of situations, and a team that is just prone to blowing these kinds of leads. And not even leads, is prone to losing in series when they should win. And this is a very, very pivotal game for both teams, I think, because both teams are fighting for something bigger than obviously, it's a little bit cliche to say they're fighting for something bigger than themselves, but honestly, a lot of them are fighting for themselves now that I really think about it. But hold on, just 1 second real quick. Okay, so and I'll explain what I mean by they're all fighting for their reputations and things like that, and them for themselves. What I mean by that is that, okay, first of all, I'm getting absolutely zero service, so that's always fantastic. But regardless, they're fighting for themselves in the sense that all of these players that are on the Clippers, right now, the James Harden, Paul George, and Russell Westbrook, all of those guys, they have everything in their career that they could really want. Well, except Paul George, who might want an MVP. But the one thing that they do not have is a championship. They have not been able to get over that championship hump. And this right here was in the season, and during the regular season, this team was thought of to be the team that could do it. Mid-season, when the Clippers were rolling and they were on a roll, they were being talked about as being one of the best teams in the NBA right now after getting James Harden in that trade. And because now that you added James Harden, you were able to get you were able to get Westbrook to come off the bench, and then you're able to have Harden run the offense with both Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, and it sounds really good in your head and things like that. But so far, when it's been put into practice, it just hasn't delivered, especially when you consider the fact that Kawhi Leonard is injured, not helping the team in the slightest whatsoever. But regardless of the injury and regardless of the fact that Kawhi Leonard is not going to be available for Game 6, just saying that just made me realize, wow, Kawhi Leonard is not going to be available for Game 6. So what are the Clippers going to do? It's really, and that's why I say they're fighting for their reputation, because these 3 players, they, like I've said in the last podcast, they all have a tendency of just failing in moments where the game's in the balance, and they all it happens to every single one of them at some point in the postseason. And it's every single season with James Harden. It's only up until recently where it's been Paul George and Russell Westbrook. And even then, Paul George has somewhat gotten better at handling these situations. And I can't even say that because he played really, really bad in Game 5. So with all of that in mind, like, these guys are playing for that reputation that, like, we are playoff players, we are Hall of Famers, we need that ring, and it's like the ring culture, it's like, you know, they need that ring. Kawhi is the only one out of all of those superstars that has that ring, and nothing really left to prove other than maybe, of course, win an MVP, which is the only thing that, which is what, it's kind of funny, like, Kawhi and like Russ and Harden, they both got the MVP over Kawhi, but Kawhi got the rings and the finals MVPs over both of them, which essentially makes Kawhi better by default in the eyes of everyone else. So it's like, what happens if you give Harden or Russ a ring as well? Where do they fall into that? Where do they fall into that scenario? But I digress. So that's who they're fighting for. Now Luka, on the other hand, and the Dallas Mavericks, they're fighting for just so they don't lose to the Clippers again. Like, the Dallas Mavericks have gone, the farthest they've gone in the postseason was the one time when they didn't have to worry about playing against the Clippers in that postseason. They made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals, and it seems like every single time they are Western Conference Finals bound, but it's just they run into the Clippers in the first round like every single time, and every single time they've lost. Luka might play phenomenally against those Clippers, but it doesn't matter. They lose every single time. Like, it's inevitable. Dread it, run from it, destiny still arrives. And now is their opportunity to get over this hump of being able to beat the Clippers, because this isn't the first time that the Dallas Mavericks have been put in this exact same scenario before. Not last year, the year before, when they played not even the year before the year before yeah, that's going to confuse a lot of people, but in the year after the bubble, so 2021, those years, there's so much, they're like, after the bubble, the years are like such a blur to me. I don't know if I'm the only one that feels like it, if that feels like that, but all the years, they're just like a blur to me after the bubble. But regardless, in 2021, I believe, the year before they got Kyrie Irving, and the year before they made it super far in the postseason, when they lost to the Clippers. They started out the series 2-0. Again, this was also the series where it took all the way up until Game 7 for one team to win a home game. And lo and behold, that team was the Clippers. And I talk about the fact that the Mavericks were already put in this exact same situation before. And that's because literally like 2 years before, they were up 3-2. Then they went over to Dallas. And then they lost the game in Dallas. And because of that, because of how the series was, it was a really weird series where it was like every single time the away team would win. And no one had any idea who was going to win in Game 7. But it ended up being the Clippers that ended up prevailing and coming in clutch when the Mavs didn't come in clutch to close out that series in Game 6 or in Game 7. So, like, that's the hump that the Mavericks have to get over, and what they're expected to do in the postseason now that they have Kyrie Irving and now that they seem to have a solid team. So if they can't get over this hump, like if they can't win out the series here, then there might be like the honeymoon period for Luka might be over. And what I mean by that is, like, by honeymoon, I feel like there's a lot of whenever a star player develops, then there's a brief period where they get a lot of love from fans and a lot of respect for their game. But then there comes a point to where if they're not winning, or if they're not making it far, or if they keep doing and repeating the same mistakes over and over and over again, then it's going to like move from being liked to being hated. And being, obviously, like, a lot of people would rather be loved than to be hated on. But regardless, like that's what I mean by the honeymoon, where it's like there's a point in time where if you're not winning, a lot of the fans are gonna lose the respect towards you. And is it unfair? A little bit, yes, but that's just how it works. So with that, we are out of time for this third segment. So now I will be going ahead into the fourth segment, where it's going to be a little bit of a shorter fourth segment. What I'm going to do is, since we do only have one playoff series left, I'm going to do a preview of the next round and the teams that I think are going to come out of the second round and move on to their conference finals, their respective conference finals. So I will be right back after this short break.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.